Hello guys, so welcome back. So today's video gonna be a little bit long because I am going to go over all 20 questions in this video. So your module 2 exam will have actually 30 questions, but the practice test will have 20 questions, right? So I am gonna go over maybe 20 or 18 questions in this video, but make sure you practice your module 2 practice exam first before you watch the video. And then once you're stuck with something, then watch it. You don't have to watch this video at all. But if you wanna know the solutions, or if you wanna know similar problems, then you have to watch, okay? Okay, so let's look at number 1. So when I shuffle or when I try to take the quiz, the practice test, I got radicand as my first question. So you might have a different problems, okay? So question 1, which is the better definition of radicand? So if you guys remember radicand, you should have your note. Radicand is basically the number inside of radical symbol. So if it's a, this is radicand inside of the square root. So the second one, the value inside of radical symbol, yes, that is definition of radicand, okay? So let's go over second one. I got another vocab. What's the better definition of range? If you guys remember range is output of your function. So the last one is the answer. If it's input, it's domain, okay? Let's go over number 3. So number 3, before I go over number 3, I put some vocab list there. You should have this in your note. So 2.1 to 2.9, please look at your notebook and then try to find this word and highlight or write somewhere because you will have this on the module 2 test. And then I put 3 vocab, I believe. So 3 vocab questions on your real exam, okay? Let's go over number 3. So graph the quadratic function f of x equals to x plus 1 times x plus 2. You guys can definitely use Desmos. Or the easy way, since we learned this chapter, we know if x is negative 1, this equation becomes 0, right? So one of the solution is negative 1, and then the other one is negative 2. So which means your x-intercept has to be negative 1 and negative 2. So when I look at the graph, this is not the answer. Negative 1, negative 2. Where is my negative 1, negative 2? This is a positive number, so this is not the answer. Negative 1 and negative 2, negative 1 and negative 2 is right here. So my third one is the correct answer. Okay, or otherwise you guys can use Desmos. Okay, let's go over question number 4. Identify the direction of opening and minimum maximum value of the parabola, then sketch the graph. Okay, since you guys have a graphing question, you can use Desmos. Or if you want to know how to find this without calculator, let's look at it. So direction of opening is basically talking about opening up or opening down. So when you look at the third one, it's opening like this way. We never learned this, so this is not the answer. When you look at the leading coefficients, it's a positive 1. So we're supposed to have regular U shape. So that's not the answer. Okay, it's open up. If you want to look at which one is the answer, you can find the vertex. Or the easiest way is looking at your constant term, 14. This is supposed to be your y-intercept. Okay, so when I look at my last graph, last parabola, my y-intercept is at 0. Which means that's not the correct answer. Y-intercept has to be 14. So that's my answer. And the minimum value is negative 2. So you can kind of use this kind of trick. Otherwise, you have to find the vertex. If you remember vertex, you have to do negative b over 2a and then f negative b over 2a. So please go over this. This is a vertex. Okay. Question number 5. Okay, so this one is the transformations. So you have a parent function f of x squared. And you guys have a vertical stretch by factor of 2. That's my first transformations, right? So first transformation is saying I have a factor of 2 with the parent function, 2x squared. Okay, next one. Then translate 14 units to the right. Okay. Then I have y equal to 2. And then do you guys remember when you have right or left transformation, you have to put parentheses. Okay. And since it's right, you are going to subtract your number. Oh, sorry, add your number. Subtract, minus 14. If it's right, you are going to subtract. If it's left, you are going to add. Okay, so I subtract 14. And then what else? The last one is saying, and then we went up by 6 units. So number 3, I copy everything down. And then since I'm going up by 6 units, you're adding 6. Okay, so where is my answer? To this one. Okay, clear? So question number 6, again, another transformations. So let's see, I have a parent function which is f of x equals to x squared. And then we have a new function which is called g of x as my new function. Okay, and then my new function is g of x equals to x minus 7 squared plus 1. So let's look at it. Whenever you guys have a parenthesis around, it's either shifting right or shifting left, okay? Since I have a minus 7, you are going to the right by 7 units. And then my plus 1 is outside of the parenthesis, which means I'm going up or down, vertical. And since it's a positive one, I'm going up by 1 unit. Okay, so let's look at it. The function g's translation 1 units up and 7 units down. Nope, not correct. 1 units right. Nope. 7 units to the left. Nope. Last one. G is translation 7 units right and 1 unit up. So that's correct. So the last one is the answer. Okay, question number 7. Radical. Remember, when you multiply this radical, you guys have to FOIL. Okay, square root of 10 times square root of 10 is square root of 100. Next one, negative 4 and the root 10. Inner one, positive 4 times square root of 10. Last one, 4 times negative 4, which is negative 16. Let's simplify. Square root of 100 is perfect square, which is 10. This cancels, minus 16. That equals to negative 6. Okay, so remember how to multiply radical. Question number 8, you guys have a 5 over negative 3 plus a square root of 5. If you guys have a fractions or divisions, you have to multiply with conjugate. Remember conjugate? Conjugate is you copy everything down, but your middle sign is changing. Okay, so it's going to be negative because I had a positive. It's opposite sign. So that's your conjugate. And when you multiply conjugate, you have to multiply top one as well. So my numerator becomes 5 times negative 3 minus root 5 all over. And what do you have to do? You have to FOIL. Negative 3 times negative 3 is 9. Next one is positive 3 square root of 5. Inner one, minus 3 root 5. And the last one is minus square root of 25. Okay, let's simplify. I'm going to distribute my top one. It's negative 15 minus 5 root 5. All over, this middle one's canceling. It's 9 minus square root of 25 becomes 5, right? So this becomes negative 15 minus 5 root 5. 9 minus 5 is 4. So that's your final answer. Okay, so that's how you divide radical. Multiply by conjugate. Question number 9. Solve the equations. Guys, remember, when you have two terms, you either factor using GCF, or you can take the square root. So let's look at it. 5x squared minus 45. What can I do there? Maybe I can add 45. Let's cancel. Let's look at it. 5x squared equals to 45. Okay. I am going to divide everything by 5. So x squared becomes 9. And what do you have to do? You have to take the square root. So they cancel. X becomes plus minus the square root of 9, which is plus minus 3. So x is 3 or negative 3. Okay. Next question. Solve 1 minus 8m squared minus 7. Okay, I am going to move. Let's see which is easier here. I'm going to subtract 1 to both sides of my equation. So I have a negative 8m squared equals to negative 8. And I'm going to divide everything by negative 8. Cancels. And this becomes m squared equals to 8 over 8, which is positive 1. Then you have to take the square root. So m becomes plus minus square root of 1. By the way, square root of 1 is 1. So therefore, you have plus minus 1 as the answer. So the first one. Okay, we are halfway. So hopefully you're fine up to here. Let's go over question number 11. Simplify. You just have to multiply the number. 6 times negative 3 is negative 18. I stays there as my imaginary number. So it's going to be negative 18i. That's it. Remember, guys, imaginary number is square root of negative 1. And you also have to remember I squared is just negative 1. So please remember this. Okay. Next one, number 12. Simplify 3 over negative 7 plus 3i. Just like the radical, when you have a fractions or division with a complex number, you are going to multiply everything by its conjugate. So it's going to be negative 7 minus, because we had a plus earlier, 3i. Let me erase this. 3i. So that's my conjugate, okay? Everything stays same except you change the middle sign. And you have to multiply that on the top as well. So the top one is just 3, negative 7 minus 3i. All over, let's FOIL it. Negative 7 times negative 7 is positive 49. Next one is positive 21i. And then inside, I have minus 21i. Last one is negative 9i squared. Okay. Distribute 3. So I have negative 21 minus 9i all over 49. This cancels. And negative 9. Guys, remember I squared equals to negative 1. So instead of I squared, you are going to put negative 1. So this becomes negative 21 minus 9i all over 49 plus 9, which is 58. Okay. Question number 13, Solve the equations. X squared minus 5x equals to 0. Okay, since you learned chapter 2, I don't mind what kind of method you are using. You can do factoring. You can use quadratic formula. Okay, or maybe you can try to complete the square if you want to. So there are many different ways. I am going to factor because I see my GCF. I can pull out x, parentheses. I have x left, right? And what else? Minus 5 equals to 0. I factor it out. Okay, so from here, you have two solutions. One of them is x has to be 0 because x times something has to be 0, or x minus 5 has to be 0. So if you solve this, x has to be 5. So it's either x is equal to 5 or x is 0. You have two possible solutions, which is the first one. Question number 14, solve the equation by factoring. Okay, that's fine. You can use factoring or quadratic formula, whatever is easier for you. First step, you have to rearrange everything. So let me add 15x, cancel, 5x squared plus 15x minus 50 equals to 0. Okay, so basically I moved negative 15x to the other side. Okay, so it becomes positive 15x. Okay, now I'm going to factor, or you can use quadratic formula. Let's pull out 5. I have x squared plus 3x minus 10 left. That equals to 0. Let's factor this. This becomes x plus 5 and then x minus 2, right? Because how are we going to factor? Remember, you look at the last number, negative 10, and then try to find two number. When you multiply, it's negative 10, but when you add, it has to be positive 3. So one of them has to be positive, one of them has to be negative. 10 and 1 doesn't work because 10 plus 1 give you 11. But then 5 times negative 2 gonna work because it's negative 10. But when you add, it becomes positive 3. Okay, so please review factoring. And that equals to 0, which means my x plus 5 has to be 0, or x minus 2 has to be 0. So therefore, x is negative 5, or x equals to 2. Right? Because when you plugged in negative 5 plus 5 becomes 0. 2 minus 2 becomes 0. So therefore, your answer is negative 5 and 2. Okay? Question 15. Solve each equation by completing the square. Even I said use complete the square. On the test, you can use quadratic formula since I'm not there to test it, like not there to look at your solutions. You can use quadratic formula. Okay, you don't have to complete the square. If you use quadratic formula, you know how to do it, right? You just have to plug in. So in this case, A is 1, B is 12, C is negative 45, and then you are going to just use quadratic formula. I'll show you. So it'll be negative 12 plus minus square root of positive 12 square minus 4. My A is 1, C is negative 45, all over 2 times 1. Okay? If you use calculator, it becomes negative 12 plus minus 144 plus, because negative becomes a positive number, 180 and 2. So you have negative 12 plus minus square root of 324 all over 2. You don't see the answer, right? So which means maybe you have to simplify a little bit further. Square root of 324 is 18. So this becomes negative 12 plus minus 18 over 2. You still don't see it because you have two solutions. One of them has to be negative 12 plus 18 over 2. The other one is negative 12 minus 18 over 2. Because we have a plus and minus. So when you simplify, this becomes 6 over 2, which is 3. The other one is negative 30 over 2, which is negative 15. So the last one is your correct answer. Okay, so you can just use quadratic formula in this case. Let's go over number 16. Same thing. You can complete the square, or you can actually do quadratic formula if you want to. I really don't mind. Or you can factor if you want it. And after that, your answer should be, let me see. To save some time, let me just do it for you guys. So the answer, you can use either quadratic formula or completing the square, but the answer should be negative 11 and 3. Okay, I'll skip this step. Same thing. 17, okay, another one. You can use quadratic formula. X squared minus 4x plus 18. When you do it, you're gonna have complex number actually. So it'll be 2 plus minus I 14. Okay. Next one, another quadratic formula. It will be, I think I went over this one in live session. So if you want to check your notebook, that's totally fine too. It's going to be 7/2, I think. Yep, this one, the last one. So A is 1, B is 7, C is 9, and then you just plugged in, and then you will get negative 7 plus minus the square root of 13 all over 2. Okay, so use quadratic formula. Number 19, find the inverse of f of x equals to 3x squared plus 4. Remember guys, we did this in 2.9, which is just yesterday. So first step, you are going to rewrite f of x as y. And then since you don't have 3 different terms, you don't have to complete the square. So we skip the step 2. We are going to switch x and y. So x becomes y and then y becomes x. You switch them. And then you solve for y, which means you have to subtract 4. This cancels. X minus 4 equals to 3y squared. And you divide it by 3. This becomes x minus 4 over 3 equals to y squared. And then you are going to take square root. So it becomes y equal to plus minus x minus 4 over 3. Okay. Last one, find the inverse of x squared plus 4x minus 45. So in this case, you have 3 different terms. You have to complete the square. So let's do step by step. Y equal to x squared plus 4x minus 45. And then complete the square, which means you're going to move negative 45 to the other side. So it becomes y plus 45. And I'm going to put blank. X squared plus 4x plus blank. Your b is 4. So b over 2 square becomes 4 over 2 square, which is 2 square 4. So you're adding 4. So the left becomes y plus 49. Now you have to factor this. X plus, what do you put here? You don't put 2. You have to put b over 2. b was 4. So 4 over 2, which is 2. Okay, so please remember when you factor a binomial, you have to use b over 2, not b over 2 square. Okay, we are done. You are going to switch x and y. So y becomes x. And x becomes y. And you are going to take square root. And then subtract 2. So it becomes negative 2 plus minus square root of x plus 49 as your answer, which is this one. Okay, so there are total 20 questions for your practice problem, so please go over this. Sorry, I went over really fast because I'm like, I just went over 20 questions in like 15 minutes. So if you want to look at my video, that's totally fine, but please try to practice 20 questions by yourself. Maybe one or second attempt is pretty good enough, I believe. And then Thursday or Friday for some of you guys will have Module 2 exam. Module 2 exam will have 30 questions total, and then you will have 1 hour to complete. All right, good luck and then study hard.